Hey, Randy Joe here, and welcome back to the channel where, if you have been following, we have started the Pink Floyd discography. We are going to be listening to every single album in the Pink Floyd discography for the first time, except, of course, The Wall, an album I've already heard that I will probably do a re-listening for on the channel. However, other than that, completely first reactions only for their entire discography. You had already seen that in the last video we covered their debut LP, that being the Piper at the Gates of Dawn, and back in Rocktober, when I was listening to nothing but rock albums throughout the month of October, we checked out Dark Side of the Moon for the first time, which absolutely blew my mind, and is definitely, I could see why, one of the best albums of their career and one of the most influential albums in the prog rock scene and just rock music in general. But today we're going to their second LP, one that doesn't get brought up nearly as much in conversation when talking about Pink Floyd's music, and that of course being A Saucerful of Secrets. This is the second LP with Syd Barrett. I believe this is the last LP actually with Syd Barrett before he ultimately left the band. And with this one, they also brought in David Gilmour, a new member, a new recruit, who would become quite a important and influential figure in their discography. But without further ado, this is 7 tracks. This is 39 minutes and 24 seconds, meaning one track on here specifically is a little bit of a mammoth, that being the title track, reaching 12 minutes, 11 minutes and 56 to be exact. So let's see what direction they go in here. I really liked Piper at the Gates of Dawn. I liked its more, kind of acid-tripped nursery rhyme sort of scheme that it had. It was very weird, very bizarre, kind of felt like a trip of Alice in Wonderland. I would assume Saucerful of Secrets is going to go down a similar route of kind of drug-fueled imagery. But let's get into Let There Be More Light. Real ramping up kind of intro here. Real sinister sort of sound to it. Really like this organ that's coming to the right side here. It's Richard Wright on the Hammond organ. We're slowing it down a little bit. A real kind of creeping anxiety so far. Already, I can kind of see the kind of Dark Side of the Moon aspects coming in. Feels a little bit more like an Odyssey here. Much more spacious. Also, the vocals here. Who do we got on vocals? Sounded quite familiar to me. That being, of course, Roger. Oh, no, David Gilmour. Is that David Gilmour we're hearing? Or is that Richard Wright? That's David Gilmour. Seems like they're trading off vocal duties. Love that soaring chorus. Oh, a little Beatles reference. Oh, I love this rising organ. So powerful. Very heavy sound to this one, but also some strong sci-fi elements coming in here. I could be, I've been reading a lot of sci-fi, so that could be influencing my opinion here, but it would seem to be some sort of extraterrestrial goings on. If this whole record is focusing in space, that might be right up my alley, personally. Oh, this drum. Everything got a nice creeping approach to it. I like this one. It's got a nice sort of plotting and growing atmosphere to it. That chorus really soaring above all the anxiety that kind of looms over the track. A gorgeous track. One of sci-fi. One of kind of continued growth from where they were on their debut for sure. Let's go into... what's the second track here? Remember a Day. Oh. Love this gentle, beautiful piano passage. Everything's got a nice kind of whimsical wispiness to it on this track so far. I love the very kind of traditional 60s vocal performance as well here. Is this Sid singing on this one? Oh no, it's Richard Wright. Okay. I feel like I'm unfamiliar with Wright's vocal performances so far in terms of Pink Floyd, but I like what he brings to the table. It's a much more kind of somber, withdrawn sort of performance. Certainly has the lyrics of whimsy that Piper at the Gates of Dawn had a little bit more. Very playful nature. Ooh, I don't know why I really love that passage, especially trying to catch the sun, just a visual component. I was gonna say this very childlike sort of focus of it. The song is about the wonders and simplicity of childhood and the regret of letting it pass too quickly. An all too relatable kind of track. It's got to be written by... this feels like a very Syd Barrett-esque. Oh, Richard Wright, man, this man's... shout out Richard Wright. I'm loving this track. I'm loving what he brings to the table. I love the more withdrawn performance. I love his songwriting. I think is comparable to that of Syd Barrett. I mean, it certainly has that sense of whimsy and kind of a childlike view. Maybe without the kind of LSD drug-ridden lyricism tied into it. Solid track. All right, I like that one quite a bit. I think I like that one even more so than the opener, just because it felt like a much more, solid listen. I mean, maybe let there be more light will grow on me more with repeated listenings. But I mean, both have been pretty solid so far. Let's go to Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun. What a title for that is. There's such a creeping, disturbed ominence. Kind of feeling. It's very. Everything's been very eerie so far. Just smokiness to this LP. That's Gilmore if I've ever heard him. I'm really, oh man. I'm loving this LP's kind of more focused appeal. I don't want to call it yet, but we're 3 tracks in, and I will say, in comparison to Piper at the Gates of Dawn, this does feel like a much more progressed, an interesting direction for me personally. I really enjoy the just the atmosphere that's being developed throughout this record. It does feel a lot more consistent and not as, I would say, perhaps dated. It's very meditative too, with how kind of gradual these tracks have been. I love that main kind of guitar lick. Quite swooping. Love the shimmery sort of effect too of that one there. Is that like a xylophone or something? It's quite beautiful. The vibraphone. The vibraphone once again played by, again, Mr. Richard Wright. My man, you are killing it on this LP. Feels like a more Richard Wright focused LP. This kind of feels like something that would, like a lot of the kind of ominous, prolonged sort of instrumentals do remind me of something of A Dark Side of the Moon or even The Wall. Transitional in a sense. Love that one. That one might be my favorite so far. So far we've been saying that with each passing track, but loved everything about that one. Very meditative, very hypnotic. Wasn't too showboaty. Much more subtle in its approach. Here's Corporal Clegg, which, before we even check, I'm going to guess that this is written by Syd Barrett. Corporal Clegg, that sounds like a Syd Barrett title if I've ever heard one. Am I correct in my guessing? Roger Waters. I'm wrong once again. Syd has a much more withdrawn approach on this LP, which I guess isn't too shocking given his departure, around the time. A little disappointed because I do like what he brought to the table with that last LP. But yeah, Corporal Clegg, let's get into it. Like, this right off the bat feels, like the kind of silliness of a Sid. Very, very strange kind of silliness of the 60s. Is Corporal Clegg a real character? I'm assuming it's the wife in this passage. I really like the Corporal Clegg had a wooden leg, won it in the war. Kind of alluding maybe to the way the war, propaganda kind of twists something of losing a leg into like an honor, as if it's a good thing. Which, of the time, I mean, this came out, 1967? 1968? So, around the time of Vietnam, that war scare certainly running deep. And a much stronger playfulness to this track that, again, feels like Piper. And doesn't feel too far off, at least songwriting wise, as some of the sillier cuts that the Beatles offered up. I Am the Walrus, Bungalow Bill. Even the Pride, twisting the horrors of war in a sense that is proud and honorable. Love the kazoo throughout that one. Certainly added to the continued playfulness of that one, despite the fact that this definitely does feel, at least to me, like an anti-war track. Kind of showing the sort of, I would say, kind of twisted narrative that is presented by the government, in a sense to sort of, cover up the horrors of war. Corporal Clegg, another solid track. Honestly, so far, I'm calling it. I'm digging this LP more than Piper at the Gates of Dawn. Might be a hot take, and maybe as time goes on, that might change around a little bit for me. But for now, on a first listen at least, definitely feels like a much more immediately interesting LP. Here's Saucerful of Secrets, the heavy hitter, the 12-minute. Let's get into it. Oh, we don't have lyrics for this one? Is this going to be a 12-minute instrumental odyssey, I wonder? What's it going to say here? It is a fully instrumental track. Oh my goodness. Well, we'll leave the credits here. All hands on deck with this one, it would seem, with the players of the band. I feel like we're the Twilight Zone with this one so far. Quite eerie. Delving into a more sinister. Jesus Christ, it's like something's barking at me. Definitely feels like a descent into madness. Might be one of the... I was gonna say might be one of the heaviest and darkest so far I've heard Pink Floyd get. Nick Mason here. Banging away. Wow, we're already almost halfway through. It's been a quite well-paced track, despite the horror kind of swirling of it all. I love Nick Mason's drum work. Is really the only constant we have to hold on to. Okay, it's toning it down. It's coming down. Since we are moving on to the next passage. This organ, again, we're seeing kind of evolutions of horror so far. Now it's getting quite religious, perhaps. A little bit of hope to it. Celestial voices, yeah. Really loved how it's grown and evolved quite a bit from like a horror tone to something that is much more maybe ethereal, or at least heavenly. This is definitely this album's Interstellar Overdrive, which feels like they're kind of pushing the limits of I mean, I guess this would be the beginnings of prog rock in a sense. Oh, I like those ahs. Quite heavenly. Love, man, this ending is so just grand and beautiful. You know what? I'm putting this above Interstellar Overdrive because this passage, like we're floating away. And that's it. Wow. Saucerful of Secrets, title track, 12 minutes. The best... A broken record. The best track here. Beautiful. Love that outro. I feel like it is offering like a calm after a storm rather than a calm before the storm, because it really kicks off with a a horror tone that feels very kind of mind-numbing, and it's kind of swirling all around you. But as we reach the end of the track, it's so ethereal, it's so beautiful. We're ascending to the heavens. You're kind of being welcomed with open arms, it feels like. And on top of that, despite being 12 minutes, I think the pacing of that was completely smooth and beautiful and just well progressed. I never felt like it meandered for too long. I feel like every passage kind of justified its runtime and made the larger whole feel very rewarding, especially as you reach that outro. Saucerful of Secrets, incredible track, absolutely incredible, better than Interstellar Overdrive. Let's keep it going. Seesaw is the next track. Wow, that one was crazy to me. Again, showing strong hints of what's to come with their more progressive rock style. Back to the playfulness. Really just describing the function of a seesaw here. Again, childlike wonder. Just a brother and a sister having a good time. Very cute, very wholesome. I feel like Saucerful of Secrets would make for a really great spring, early summer kind of LP because there's such a strong sense of childlike whimsy to it all. It's just very pretty. Feels like a nice spring day. Strong contrasting in the instrumental. Very sudden movements. It's just a relationship between siblings, it seems. Nothing too much deeper than that. Maybe really just showing the closeness of two siblings and the kind of growing apart that comes as siblings grow older. A very expected point of life, really. I say that as someone with 5 siblings. I love how cute this one is. I love how it's kind of gentle and floaty, it feels. I feel like I'm going to have quite a bit to say after this LP is completely finished. I'm going to do my little roundup at the end of this video, but let's go into the final track here. Let's close it out. Jug Band Blues, 3 minutes. Shortest track here. The last song that Syd Barrett wrote, it would seem, for Pink Floyd. Interesting. Let's dial back a bit. His final send-off. A lot of eeriness to the lyrics here. Perhaps, I'm wondering who could be writing this song. I don't care if the sun don't shine. Maybe he understands or knows that he is being, removed from the band, given the fact that he, was really kind of giving into a unhealthy mindset and drugs at the time, and it seems like he's okay with that. Maybe there's a bitterness, but he seems to be succumbing to the drugs. But I could be reaching. Oh, picking up quite a bit here. What the heck? Where are we going with this, Sid? Definitely feels like a descent into insanity here. Huh? What an eerie track this is to close things out, and for Sid to end his career on. Wow, interesting track for sure to close out his career and to close out the album with. Saucerful of Secrets, 39 minutes, 24 seconds. What do I have to say? I liked it more than Piper at the Gates of Dawn. I'll say that. I liked it more, at least on a first listen, when compared to Piper at the Gates of Dawn. Definitely feels like it also is a more, I would say, consistent listen. It does feel more kind of focused in its ideas and its sound, that sound being much more hypnotic, much more gradual, and certainly kind of leaning into the kind of prog rock elements that they would become much more known for, of course. Saucerful of Secrets, though, that title track, was to me the standout track here, which is saying a lot because I also think Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun was fantastic. I think Remember a Day was fantastic. I even liked the elements of Corporal clegg really kind of being a anti-war track, it would seem, kind of dressed up in a kind of fun, silly, and cute fashion. That this 4-track run to me is quite strong, and probably stronger than anything on Piper at the Gates of Dawn, at least in terms of one after another. But Saucerful of Secrets, like I was saying, incredible pacing, and does feel like the key standout track here, and definitely very important in the growth of the band. If I were to point out the most important track of the LP, it would be the title track, because it does feel like a stepping stone to the much more progressed and unique ideas that they brought to the table further in their discography, of course. Unfortunately, that does mean that on this LP, it does kind of step away from the kind of Syd Barrett songwriting and the Syd Barrett sort of song structures, which are certainly more unconventional, a little silly, a little strange. One of a, I will say, deteriorating kind of, madman, perhaps. Unfortunate that he had to leave the band, but I do think that as a whole, perhaps it was more beneficial because, I mean, you look at the career going forward, it does feel like they really came into their own sort of sound, while still kind of honoring what he brought to the table. But, for me, this was a more interesting listen. It felt very strong from beginning to end. It's also quite brief. 39 minutes does fly by, especially when you do have the epic of a 12-minute track kind of to pad it out a little bit more. And it does it, though, in a way that doesn't feel unnecessary. It does feel very much a necessary track. Maybe I could have put it, after Seesaw. I would have preferred that, and then maybe Jug Band Blues to really close out Syd Barrett's sort of songwriting and song structures. But all in all, this is a great LP. It's fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Also, really trippy cover, kind of taking some of the sort of elements of their debut and adding the kind of sci-fi elements and sort of whimsical nature that these tracks have. Would I have preferred more sci-fi elements in the mix? Perhaps so, because I did like it on that opening track. But hey, I feel like in terms of just, their sound, that space rock sound they became known for, there's more than enough kind of sci-fi Pink Floyd-esque music to go around. But that does it for today's video. If you liked the video, please hit like and subscribe to follow along in listening to more Pink Floyd albums alongside myself. Again, doing the whole discography. We're going to go on to their third LP, which I believe is just titled More. I think that's the official third LP, if I'm not mistaken. That will be the one that we check out next. We, of course, are doing Bjork discographies as well. So her next album will be Post, which will be posted not too long from now. I do want to pick up the pace a little bit on both Pink Floyd and Bjork's discography, and really just go one by one back and forth between the two discographies, as well as listening to new albums as they come throughout the year, because I do want to focus on new releases. But that's all I got to say today. I appreciate you watching. As always, my name is Randy Joe, and I'm signing off.